What is up, Game Brigade family? Thank you for tuning in. My name is Bryan, and today we're going to be doing my overview analysis of Marvel United and tell you what my opinions are for this campaign. Stay tuned for that. Before we get too far, I want to say thank you to intotheAM for sponsoring my channel once again for the month of February. They sponsored January and included a $20 gift card, so congratulations to the winner, Matt, on that one. This month, they're going to be supporting me again, and if you want to help them because they're supporting me, check out the link down below. You can use my code BOARDGAME for an additional 10% off their site. Check out these cool shirts. This is one of my favorite shirts. It's like a skeleton. You can't even see it. Skeleton with like a candle. I love it. It's really cool. So let's hit the first game. Actually, the first game, the only game. We're doing Marvel United. This is an overview analysis of all of the expansions, all of the add-ons, giving you my thoughts on each one, which ones that I like, which ones maybe I don't like, and give you my recommendations whether or not you should back this game in general and where you should go. Before I get there, though, I do want to say one thing because I do think this is important. Please back responsibly. This is a fun hobby to be a part of. It is very easy to get wrapped up in the FOMO, the fear of missing out, especially when it comes to Kickstarter exclusive items. But remember, there's always going to be other games down the road, so only back games that we love, that we really want to be adding to our collection, and be aware that a game like Marvel United is very box dense. It takes a lot of space up in your collection, and it pushes other games out by, reducing the amount of room you have. So I want to make sure I put that out there at first, because I do think it's fun to be hyped and excited and talk about these games. It's why I made this channel, but I also want to make sure people are aware to back responsibly, only spend what you can afford, and don't go crazy because there's always going to be something else, a month down the road. So with that known, let's see what we have. So I did an overview already on the Should You Back. We're not going to dive too much into that kind of stuff, but we are going to talk about some of these pledge levels. The first one being the core box, the Multiverse Pledge. I think this is actually a very good value if you're looking for just a solid experience with a good amount of villains and a good amount of heroes for you to play with, but still not wanting to go crazy with the add-ons. You're still kind of being tempered. There's also the benefit here that the stretch goal box will maintain a very large value above the price here if you wanted to. So you could even back this, pay your shipping, sell the stretch goal box, and you basically get a free game. You could effectively do that if you wanted to. Not sure if you want to, because then you're going to be without all the cool stuff. But hey, what can you say? So what are we getting with the Multiverse Pledge? Well, in the Multiverse Pledge, you're going to be getting the core set of the game. It's going to include these Kickstarter exclusive items. I want to mention this also right now, because a lot of times we talk retail. We talk about buying games at retail. If they aren't exclusive, what can we do? When I checked Amazon.com just for a baseline price line before I did this filming, expansions for the previous Kickstarter that was for Marvel United, the X-Men one, those expansions were pretty much the exact same price as they were on the campaign, about $30 per box. So it is, usually we like to say, oh, you can get a lot of sales or discounts on retail. Not always. Now, yes, retail will go on sale at times. That is a possibility. You can probably get those things over time at a better price. But then, you're taking the chance you get that. You might not get it. And you're also missing out on any of these exclusive goodies that you potentially could have gotten here. One of those items being the Wrecking Crew. Wrecking Crew is just a four-man team, kind of a lame guy squad. Like, are you scared of this guy with his crowbar, and this guy's what is this, like a prison ball, I guess? Kind of an interesting group, but they are exclusive and they are villains, and this is a special group because you're gonna be fighting them together. It's kind of a cool little thing. Then you have all the exclusive add-ons. So these are the Kickstarter exclusive characters you're gonna be playing. You're gonna get a whole slew of heroes here, which are cool. Make sure you take a look at these heroes, see what's in there, because I do think a big part of these games is finding the heroes that kind of speak to you and that you might know. Unfortunately, a lot of these guys, I don't know any of them. People tell me it's a C-list squad of champions. I'm not a big Marvel comic book reader, so I don't know many of these characters as it is. But, you know, go through them and see if there's anyone that speaks to you. We have anti-heroes, and the anti-heroes are really cool because these are characters that you can play as heroes. They have all the cards and components to play as heroes, but they can be added as villains. And the villains are, and I talked about this in the Should You Back, the villains are where you're going to get the most variety in your gameplay experience because every villain plays differently and they have different ways and mechanics that you have to overcome them. And so the more villains you add to your gameplay experience, the more variety and longevity you're going to get out of that game. So here we have some anti-heroes. So these are all characters that can be played both for the good guys or as an enemy. And then we again have villains, straight villains. These are the ones that are going to be adding that cool components for us to fight against and go through it. I think there's a good amount of stuff here already in the core box at the $65 pledge, but we're also adding more stuff on. The reason I like this campaign and the reason I'm kind of hyping it up is I do think over the lifespan of the 3 games that we've seen so far, I think Marvel United Multiverse here is adding the most levels of complexity, either reducing the complexity for some people who need that or increasing the complexity for people who need that, and offering a wider suite to bring more uniqueness to the characters that make their characterization flesh out a little bit. And one of those items is the classic equipment for the retail characters, for the original characters if you have those, as well as some of the promos for some of the new characters. And these equipment cards are basically going to be given to characters that are going to be basically replacing cards and giving them an item. So you might have like Thor's hammer, Captain America's shield, basic stuff like that, Black Panther's claws, stuff like that. No, so these are promos, the class equipment promos. These are going to be for the characters that are not part of this game, but they're from the previous campaign. But it's available, and you could even potentially sell those if you didn't plan on picking up those characters as well to help recoup some of your costs. We have generic equipment. These are going to be for characters who have no real mainstay pieces of equipment that are for them. You get some generic pieces of equipment. These are not as flavorful for me, but they're okay. And then you're going to get some of these team decks. We're going to talk about team decks in a little bit, but you can see these are some of the Kickstarter exclusive ones that are going to be added to your collection. We'll talk about team decks in full detail, so we're going to skip past that. The next pledge they have is the Herald Pledge, and this is going to be adding in the Fantastic Four Coming of Galactus, which has its own game mode. You actually get this big Galactus mini, which is going to be a huge box. Remember that, guys. It's going to be a huge box, so you got to fit this huge mini. But he's going to have his own game mode. That might be something for you to do. I don't know if I really love this pledge. You are getting the Iron Lad Kickstarter exclusive if you pledge the $100 pledge, so this will be part of that. And this Fantastic Four version is Kickstarter exclusive, so this is the only way to get this pledge or this expansion is the Herald Pledge. But I'm not sure if it's really the one I want to get because it just seems like it's going to be adding a lot of bloat, and I'm not sure if I need the Galactus. Now, that's my opinion. What I would recommend if I wasn't going to do the all-in, we're going to talk about that. If I wasn't going to do the all-in, I would probably come down and figure out which of these expansions most aligned to what I want, and I'd probably try to see where the cost aligns with doing a, picking a la carte. So let's talk here about my recommendations of these expansions, not talking about the Coming of Galactus, because I think that's, in my opinion, too much bloat, too big of a box, not enough stuff being added to the gameplay experience for me. So I'd be personally skipping that unless I was getting the all-in. Obviously, it's going to come in the all-in, and that is if I want, all those components. So I rated these things based on the gameplay additions, the variety of the gameplay we're going to be getting, any added characters that might be kind of cool, the overall value, and things like modules. I also took into consideration, was it Kickstarter exclusive or is it retail availability? Can I pick this up at a later time? Because if I am doing a la carte and I want to eventually pick up the rest of the stuff, it might be easier to pick up some of the stuff at retail. Now, it might be interesting to come up see what I came up with here. The first one here is the War of Kings, and this is a Kickstarter exclusive item, so you would think it would be a little higher up on the list, $35 for this one. But the reason I put this one at the bottom of my tier is because it's only adding more of what we already have a bunch of and nothing really else. You're getting a bunch of more characters, you're getting one more anti-hero, and one more villain for you to add to your collection. But if we were wanting to weight the value of heroes to anti-heroes and villains, this is opposite of where I want it to be. I want it to be higher on the villain count, higher on the anti-hero count, and lesser on the hero count, for me personally. These heroes, I have no idea who they are. I think Crystal looks pretty cool, Medusa looks pretty cool, but overall, I don't know these characters, so I'm not being drawn to them. And in terms of gameplay additions, we're just going to be getting some unique locations that you can travel to, but I don't know if that's enough for me to want to warrant adding this to my collection. So that's why I put this one at last place. The next one we have Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion is going to be very similar, but it's adding up a little bit on that villain count. We can see that here, which is good. It is also Kickstarter exclusive. The thing that this one is adding for, that I would rate it a little higher than the War of Kings that we just looked at, is it does have an added module, which is the Advanced Training module. And this is for players who are newer or need help with this system. If Marvel United is a little bit more difficult or challenging, this is a way to make things a little easier to help you along as you learn the systems, as you get used to the game. This is not going to be recommended for players who are advanced or just playing the game as normal. This is for newer player help. So that's, again, lower on my list, especially for someone who's going to be coming into this with a lot of content. I don't think this is going to be that necessary. The next one I'm going to be taking a look at is Annihilation. This is another Kickstarter exclusive item, but $30, so a little cheaper. Bad on the content, and I had a real hard time between this one and the previous one in regards to where I'd place it between the Secret Invasion and Annihilation, because this one is only 4 heroes and 1 villain, so not very good in terms of the added components. But you are getting the Complications deck, which adds a variety option to your gameplay experience, which is something I hold at a higher tier level over the character additions. And this is going to be a deck of cards you're going to be adding in to increase the difficulty of your challenge as you're facing against the villain. If this complication arises, now you also have to deal with something, whatever that complication may be. So it's going to be making things a little bit more difficult for you to add on, and it's pretty insertable, pretty modular into other expansions, which is nice. Okay, next we have World War Hulk, and this one's interesting. It's not Kickstarter exclusive. That's why it's going to be a little bit lower on the list as well, because we are going to be able to pick this up at retail. The only thing we're not going to be getting is Doc Samson. If we purchase this now, we'll get Doc Samson. If not, you can still be able to get this game relatively at the same price as we're paying here. But this one is adding basically great value for me as a player. I've got some cooler heroes that I know. We've got Gladiator Hulk, we've got Hulk Buster, Iron Man, Hercules. These are characters that are a little bit more well known. Plus 3 of them are anti-heroes, so they're both villains and heroes, which adds that scaling up for me. But in terms of that, there's nothing else really we're looking at here other than what's included in this expansion. So that's why I'm putting World War Hulk just above the other ones. We're getting, and I think if this was Kickstarter exclusive, it would have been a little higher on the list. But because it's retail availability, I'm going to be pushing it down just a little bit further. The next thing we have is the Age of Apocalypse, and this is one that I have a hard time between this one and Hulk in terms of replacement, because it's Kickstarter exclusive and it has that just a little bit more FOMO attached to it. It gets a little bit higher slotting in terms of that. But again, you're getting some pretty cool heroes that are well known, at least for me, I guess. I should say it's all relative, but you have Apocalypse, you have Sabretooth, Nemesis, Magneto. So these are characters that at least I'm aware of. But the thing that is adding on this one, which is a cool gameplay experience, is you're going to get this way down here with Dark Beast. He's got a cool little thing that you can play with along with the complex challenge, giving you some gameplay variety, which is always included or appreciated. So that's why I think this one and versus the Hulk one is a little higher. It's got that variety, it's got some known characters, and it's Kickstarter exclusive. But now we're starting to get into the last expansions that I think are the most valuable ones to take a look at. I talked about these in the Should You Back videos. This one is Civil War, the PvP expansion. Now, I personally love this one. It is retail available, so not Kickstarter exclusive, which is great. But this is going to be adding in a component to the game where you're going to be able to have that complex PvP nature fighting that I like. I like being able to compete against my opponents, and I think this is great. Not for everyone, obviously, because Marvel United is built on a cooperative system, so we're going to see how it translates over. I think it looks like it's going to work, but the fact that it's coming in as a retail buy, I think is pretty great. You are missing out on these 2 exclusives, and I think they did 2 to try to incentivize you to buy it just a little bit more during this campaign. Because if they did 1, if they just did Hulkling, I think people would be like, I can skip this game. I'll pick this up retail for sure. So now they throw Iron Spider in there, which people know a little bit better. They kind of want them. So that's just a carrot basically dangling for this one. But I do think this is one I would pick up at some point for sure. It's definitely going to be an expansion you're going to want if you're diving into this game. I think it's going to be really cool and really good add-on. But the final one I want to talk about is the Maximum Carnage, because this one adds the most value. $35. Also, not Kickstarter exclusive, but let's talk about the Kickstarter goodies that you will be getting here shortly. You are going to be getting 5 villain pieces, 1 anti-hero, so you're getting a lot of that variety, a lot of stuff for you to play with. It's going to expand and extend the gameplay options for you, which is great. But you're going to be getting an entire cool game mode, which is awesome. But the Kickstarter exclusive, the reason I do think this is a value, is including additional Sinister Six cards here for the previous Sinister Six expansion. And they are going to also, if you did not do the original expansion, they have the original Return of the Sinister Six available so you can play with these guys in this module as well. It is a $45 optional buy. Very, very highly would I consider this one, even though you are paying that $10 premium because it was from the previous campaign. Might be worth it. I think it looks pretty good, and when you combine it with this expansion, I think it's going to be really, really cool. So after that, we just have some additional add-ons that I want to talk about. We have the Multiverse playmat. You might be able to find a playmat in the secondhand market, but it might not be as readily available. And if you're buying it from a non-local buyer, you might have to pay shipping. So you might be coming up close to $30 anyways. So this might be something to take a look at. I do believe, in my opinion, now some people obviously disagree, that the playmat increases the ease of play when you're bringing this game to the table, because you're playing in this circular game mode. Let me go back to here. I think I showed this. See how you're kind of going around here in a circle? Well, if you don't have a playmat, these things kind of can be more difficult to figure out where you want to place them and have exact locations. That playmat basically locks down and tells you exactly where things are going to go. It just makes things a little bit easier and better to look at. So although I've been kind of against playmats lately because of the storage options and finding places to put them, I do think this is a good one to have if you're looking for that. The next is the campaign decks. This is a $15 Kickstarter exclusive, and if you were to if there's one thing you were to ask me, what do I buy if I just want to buy the core box or whatever, is there anything I need to get? This is going to be it. The campaign decks are going to add a lot of variety and a lot of length and stuff to your game, especially for $15. You're basically going to be adding a story, campaign, narrative that you're going to go through, which has things that will affect your game if you win or lose. You will go through and change kind of what's happening. It is very light. It's not like super deep and super, well thought out, but it is something to extend the gameplay and give you something just a little bit more to do, because that was my biggest issue with Marvel United in the beginning when I played it, was it just felt a little too light overall in the gameplay aspects. So anything that's increasing the complexity or offering more ways to look at the puzzle, I think it's super cool. So that's the campaign decks. We also have the team decks. Now there are two different versions. You have the promo team decks here and the team decks. Both $15. I'm just going to talk about in general what the team decks are. The The team decks are ways that you can play with these cards if you're playing with a certain set of heroes in your game that can, if they're part of a team like the Avengers, the Champions, the X-Men, they can take advantage of these decks to kind of as if they're working together, kind of, comboing and doing things together. Now, the thing with the team decks, and I wanted to talk about this earlier, now we're going to talk about it here, it does require a denser amount of content to get the full experience. You got to have almost all of the content from the world of Marvel United here to get the fullest experience of both these decks, because they're going to be including game cards from the other campaigns and some of the exclusives of those other campaigns. So that's the only thing I want to warn you guys about, is that if you don't have everything, you might not get the full depth experience. But you can come down here and see exactly the decks which are available, where the cards came from. So Marvel United or the United promos, Marvel United, United promos, the Fantastic Four, etc. So you can know exactly where these cards were from, or these characters are from. So you could potentially pick those up later, or see about picking them up in this campaign if you truly wanted that stuff. Now, again, I want to warn you guys from overspending. The next is the pet companions. This was the last announcement that we just saw. I mean, these are just things you're going to add to your hero that are going to be moving around. They're not heroes. They don't have a health, but they do act as a companion so that you're not alone at a location. And they have cards that you can play, which will give a benefit to you and then your companion as well. They're fun. They're quirky. It's $20. This is one I could possibly skip, but if I have young children or if I am a completionist, I would have no problem picking these up. I think they're okay. They're cool, but I don't know if I necessarily would need them. And if I was buying it on a budget, I would not buy the pet companions. The next thing to talk about, there's a couple of these. They have some deluxeifications if you wanted to with the cardboard locations. If you just wanted things to be a little bit more sturdy, a little bit more durable, they have cardboard locations. This is all personal preference. Same thing with the plastic tokens that you can get here. You can also pick up the original plastic tokens if you're looking for those. Some people love the deluxeification. It's one of the things I do love about Kickstarter's deluxeification, but you're looking at a lot of money here for these. So I would just be hesitant and just say, hey, I don't necessarily would know if I recommend that. So let's go back here and tell you what my final thoughts are. In fact, let's just go to my main camera. Overall, if I were to give you my recommendation for Marvel United, I do think this is a very strong looking campaign overall for the Marvel United franchise. I forgot to mention something here. You don't see me do this very often. They are offering, if you are interested in the original classic stuff down here. So if you're looking for the classic buys, you've got the classic promo bundle for $220. This gives you Marvel United and the Marvel X-Men promo boxes, so all those exclusives, or you can buy them individually if you wanted to. And then again, they also brought the Return of Sinister Six and the Fantastic Four. So these are things that they're bringing up from the past campaigns for you to take a look at, add them to your campaign in case you want to pick up these exclusives and then buy the other boxes at retail if that's something you want to do. So be aware of that as well. Let's go back to main camera. So based off the three campaigns, I think they have taken this third one, which I think was going to be very hard to sell because you don't have a lot of big names behind it in terms of the characters. And they said, okay, well, how are we going to sell this campaign? And what they came at us with was incredible additions to the gameplay experience, which I think is probably the best value for it. And if I were to buy any of the three, while I think the X-Men was the top one for me because of the character count, this one might be the best one for me based off just the gameplay experience and everything it's adding to the game. I'm very, very much excited to see this campaign. I am not backing it. I will let you know that right now. I'm not backing because I know who I am as a person and I think I'd want everything. And I don't want to dive into $1,000 of Marvel United. It's just, I cannot do it. But I do think there's a good game here for people who like this experience. Now, one recommendation I have told people already, if you don't know if this is for you, go buy a core box of the original Marvel United. You can play the game. You can even find the really cheap one, the Walmart exclusive. It's like $15. Doesn't give you the full experience, but you can see the game at a level that might tell you if you like this type of game mode, and then you can decide if you want to dive into this now. So I do think, like I said, there's a lot of added-ons here. You could totally do the base pledge, pick a few of those, the ones that add the most value, kind of my list of the ones I went off with, and see if those are going to be for you. There's definitely a lot of options. Hopefully this helped in some way. I don't know if it did. It might not have, might have, but I hope it did in some way provide a value to you. If it did, please smash that like button, support the channel. Check out intotheAM. My link is down below for your convenience. They have sales all the time, 30% off usually. And then my board game code, my coupon tag board game adds additional 10% to that, so use that. Check out the Patreon if you want to support the channel. We're going to be adding some additional features to the Patreon to maybe spice it up a little bit, bring some life to it, because I haven't been doing enough, or I need to figure out a better way to do the Patreon. And then of course check out the Discord if you want to hang out and chat with me. I would love to talk to you guys. But with that, I'm going to let it go. I will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.